in D.C. I'm joined now by author, presidential historian, and political analyst Rich Rubino. Rich, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mamdani spent the week in Washington meeting with party leaders, but failed to pick up the support of House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries or Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Both of them, as you know, are from New York. Is this a big deal, or he just still has more work to do?
Yes, it is. And I think in the end, they probably will give some sort of a tacit endorsement. But this is very important because it actually affects them as well. And Hakeem Jeffries has the threat potentially as he spends his time trying to bring the Democrats back into hegemony over the United States House of Representatives. If he does not make this endorsement, the Democratic Socialists of America will try to support a candidate running against him in the primary, which means he's going to have to spend an inordinate amount of time defending his seat in New York City. And there's also, there has been certainly in New York, for example, whether it was Joe Crowley losing to AOC back in 2018 or Jamal Bowen defeating Eliot Engel in New York State, there is some precedent of an incumbent member who's in the leadership or who's chairman of a committee actually losing or coming close to losing their own seat. So this really affects both of them. So that's why I think in the end of the day, they're going to issue a tacit endorsement, but not spend much time on the campaign trail with them.
Rich, I forgot about Jamal, and you said something that I want to go back to because more than anything, they would have to spend money that they don't want to have to spend defending their own seat.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Hakeem Jeffries wants to spend as much time as he possibly can going to places like Maine, Illinois, California. The last thing he wants to do is spend his time defending his own seat in New York City. But as I say, he has seen a precedent, and it is possible his friends like Joe Crowley and Eliot Engel have actually lost their seats. So he doesn't want to take anything for granted. So this is something that could really have deleterious effects upon him.
Rich, I hear a lot of people, I'm going to say 40 plus, not all, but many, kind of dismiss Mamdani as, this is just a thing. I think that Cuomo made the mistake of doing the same. Rich, are older Democrats or stalwarts missing an opportunity here to recognize the power of the young vote and the enthusiasm he seems to engender?
Yes, I think that's categorically true. I think that there is a schism in the Democratic Party. Despite the fact that the right tries to portray all Democrats as socialists, the people who actually are socialists or democratic socialists have a lot of antipathy to what they call the quote-unquote corporate Democrats or the establishment Democrats. And that's why there's always been this issue between whether it was Joe Crowley and AOC, Eliot Engel and Jamal Bowen, potentially Hakeem Jeffries and somebody else. There really is a tension between the left and the center left in the Democratic Party. And that's something that really does not bode well for them in terms of their chances in terms of taking back the House in 2026.
Rich, I got to ask you this. So I have about a minute left there. How realistic are Mamdani's economic policies for America's biggest city? He's talked about the buses being free. He wants to do a lot of things that really do excite a lot of young people.
Yes, and certainly he's tried that as a pilot program in New York City, but it's something that we really don't know because New York has never really tried anything quite like this. There have certainly been Democrats, whether it was David Dinkins, for example, but they've never been quite as far left as he is. And the question is, once he actually gets into power, will the city council be sympathetic to him? Will he get it through? Will he start by doing some sort of a pilot program? We really don't know, but obviously in campaigns, you make a lot of promises that once you get elected, the circumstances are quite divergent.
And Rich, I've got one more quick question. My producer is going to kill me, but I've got to ask you this. Mamdani's economic agenda and controversial stances on pro-Palestinian protests pose any risk for the Democratic Party?
It does, I think, but I think it's more that there's just a schism in the Democratic Party over that issue. And I think that young Democrats are much more sympathetic with the plight of those living in Gaza than potentially older Democrats who are more sympathetic with the policies of the Israeli government. There has to be some sort of a rapprochement if the Democrats want to unify and take back the House and for that matter, the Senate in 2026.
Rich, you're the one I want to sit next to at a dinner party. Man, I would just talk to you all day.
All right.
You and just your breadth of knowledge around different things. Talk to you about Liz Smith, Eliot Spitzer, everything. You know it all.
Rich I have a lot of useless knowledge in my head.
Not useless at all. Really interesting. Rich Rubino, thank you so much for spending your Sunday with me.
I greatly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me on again.
Absolutely. Coming up, the EPA and Norfolk Southern